Welcome. Thanks for joining Navigating the End of the Year with Teach to One Roadmaps. I'm Latoya Davis, or LD, your learning experience designer, and I'm really excited to lead today's discussion and conversation on how we can really navigate this tricky part of the school year, which is ending the school year, putting a nice bow on that. So let's not waste any time and hop into it. So, as I said, we recognize that the end of the school year is soon upon us. A lot of us can probably see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are almost there. And with many of our state assessments and standardized assessments in the rearview mirror behind us, now is a really great opportunity for us to discuss how we can reimagine roadmaps as we navigate the end of the year, because we recognize it is really tricky for both students and for yourself as educators. And we want to help navigate some of this trickiness by sharing roadmap best practices, activities, and just some high quality suggestions and resources to engage students and maintain a culture of learning in your class. So I don't know about you all, but this sounds like a good time to me, and I'm excited for us to reimagine that. My only ask for you all today is to show up with your creative thinking side. Let's make that right side of our brain work, to show up willing to think outside of the box, to think of celebrations, rewards, think about your students' progress, think about your own progress this year, what your needs might be for next year, and what you recognize as a need for your future students next year. So show up in that space. Feel free to use the chat and to share any best practices that you've used in the past. I'm leaning on you, veteran roadmaps teachers here. And for our novice new teachers, please lean in and share any suggestions that you might have and how we can make this really impactful for our students. Sounds like fun. I'm going to start things off with a quote. Take a couple of seconds to look at it to yourself, read it to yourself, and I'm going to do the teacher thing and read out loud, and you guys just read along with me. So, students need us to keep investing in them. We start the year deliberately planning for impact. We must end the year with the same intent, the same fervor, planning, and investment. Think about that. As we're thinking about navigating the end of the school year, a lot of us show up at the beginning of the school year with our toolbox of like stickers and notepads and crayons we're going to give away and all these great ideas. We're full of excitement at the beginning of the school year of how intentional and strategic we're going to be to support our students with using the roadmap tool to support with their developmental needs as math students, right? But we want to find a way to transfer that same excitement towards the end of the school year. Now it's not the time for us to relax and kick our feet up. We're not on summer break just yet. Now is the time for us to actually turn up our efforts and turn up our input to make sure that students are still receiving the same intentionality that they received in the beginning of the school year, now that we're at the end of the school year. But why? So, of course, if we would not be Teach to One roadmaps, if we did not lean into some data to support why this is really important here. So, looking at this quote here, due to the accumulation of summer learning loss, it is not only essential, let that sink in. It's not only essential, but it is necessary for educators to continue teaching and developing mathematical skills that extend beyond testing timeframes. Repeat that again, that extend beyond testing timeframes and the classroom. We recognize that there is it is, right? There is a summer loss for our students. That summer learning loss does take place, unfortunately. So therefore, our intent is to make sure we give students as much skills, as much support, as much instruction as they need up until the very last day of the school year, and then the very last day that they'll be able to access and integrate with roadmaps throughout the summer. We want to make sure we do this because we recognize that 17 to 34% of learning that's took place throughout the school year is lost on average. That's looking at math and reading, and that's also looking at students that are in elementary school from 5th to 8th grade or middle school. 20% is specific to math average learning loss. And then that's equivalent to 2 months of an average of learning loss for our students. So all of the great work that you've done with students throughout the year, we don't want that to go to the wayside. All of the learning, all of the hurdles our students have overcame with these roadmaps and all the achievements and accomplishments, we don't want for them to experience that loss. So it's very important, again, that we recognize that it is necessary and it is essential for us to continue teaching although the standardized tests may be done, although our grade books might be done, we still have to continue this. And we're going to find a way to make that doable and fun. So let's get into it. With roadmaps. So the first thing I want to highlight and how we can make things exciting for our students is reflecting on growth and reflecting on learning. I know as educators, we always do this, but this is a great opportunity for us to create and again, to be intentional and to have our students specifically look at their own data and track their growth and track their learning. This is an opportunity for students to ultimately dive into reports, reflect on which instructional resources were most beneficial to their learning. So for example, it was the instructional videos that was most beneficial to me, or I recognized that it was the collaborative activities that was most beneficial to me. So this is an opportunity for them to reflect on how they prefer to learn and where they recognize the greatest gains for themselves. This is also an opportunity for students to analyze their progress maps and begin to own and sort of construct these learning narratives about their experience, because now they have an opportunity to think about which assessments or which strands did they perform the highest on, which skills, while looking at their data, did they really struggle on. This might be something for them to, again, think about their plans and for the future, the goals that they might want to have when they recognize I really struggled with this particular strand. Therefore, we really, really encourage students, of course, under your guidance and your direction, to review the following. Review their progress, and I'll show you this in a second. So just bear with my words, and then I'll show you what I mean in a minute. But we want for students to review their progress and their progress map, analyze this, where they performed individually, and again, construct this understanding of, here's what I'm understanding how I learn, and I recognize that I could have done better here, or perhaps I struggled here because I chose the wrong resource to support me. We also encourage students to look at their assessment reports, and then to look at the skills stats and that stat screen. Again, very quickly, I'll show you what that looks like just as a recap and a reminder for you all. But this is an opportunity for students to engage in rich, meaningful discussion with you during a check-in perhaps, or maybe with a peer, and share their learning experiences or their math learning narratives and how do you learn best, or what's your preferred instructional resource that's really helped you. So they can engage in that conversation with their peers. Another thing that our students can do, if you look to the left of your screen in this really neat orange here, is they can track their progress as well. That's an activity that they can do. So a lot of us have started our school year off, or maybe mid-year, with creating goals for our students. Our students can now complete their progress tracker or their Teach to One roadmaps tracker, which can be found in Teacher Hub. Nice plug for that. And I'll show you that in 1 second. I promise I'm going to get there. But in addition to them reflecting on the learning, I wanted you guys to understand that we have activities and resources that can really support students with the taking it to a next step. So I've thought about it. I've analyzed my skills. I've analyzed the roadmap, or my individual progress map. And now, what's the next step? Now, take out your tracker and perhaps track, did you meet that goal? How did you perform in this particular assessment or this particular skill? What are your needs? So there's something that you all teachers can have students complete and walk away with that would really help inform your instruction and planning for next year, but it will also help build that agency. And here we know we're really, really about building an agency for students, because they now understand their own learning and they understand how they perform and what they can do better next time. So I'm going to take a breath. Any questions here as I get ready to share my screen, just to monitor or to model for you all how you can access these 3 reports, and then I'll show you where this tracker lives on our Teacher Hub. Give you a second to think of your questions while I switch screens here. No one be shy. It is okay. Okay, pulling it up. Don't worry. All right. The first thing I'm going to show you all, I'm going to pretend to be a student and show you those reports. And there we go.
I think there was just one question, Latoya,
Oh, I missed it.
about will TTO be offering any more competitions or contests?
Yes. So that was what you're getting ahead of me. I'm not sure who wrote that question there, but yes. So later in the presentation, you'll see that there's definitely some enrichment opportunities with Teach to One roadmaps here. Some of those enrichment opportunities, we have those 2 Skills Tuesdays. We have some really interactive math games, some really cool things that the product team is working on that will be unveiled for you all. I'm going to get into that by to hold that question, and I'm going to show you how to access it. But we do have some really, really cool things for your students, again, to keep that engagement, to create that culture of learning for you all. So I love that question. I'm not going to forget that. So super quickly, just to showing you all here, pretending to be a student. Remember, there was 3 reports that we highly suggested that you have your students look at. So on their homepage, they can click the progress, skills, or assessment. On their homepage, they have their own progress map here. If they scroll down, this particular student has 54% of their progress map completed. This can be an opportunity for the student now to dive deeper, again, own that learning and have that agency for our students and dive deeper and say, well, how come I have 54%? Let's look into that. Let's look at your progress. Our students can click their progress here. Now they're diving more into their progress map. Okay. I'm noticing that I did okay. This is a city project map, but I did okay. I have geometry. Maybe I need to build more here over in decimal. So they're able to look at what they've completed, do place out. Is there room for growth? And are you almost there? Again, we want for our students to really dive into this and own their learning and own analyzing their progress. If you click on the skills screen here, remember I mentioned that skills stat? We notice how many skills this particular student has remaining, how many they have completed. Now the student can reflect, I attempted this 5 times, or perhaps I attempted this, I did not attempt 63 times, or I noticing that I did not complete this skill or this strand because, and now they can begin to build that narrative. They can also continue scrolling here and notice what they have left, what skills they have left. Like this year, darn, I did not get to really work on function rules, but that is going to be my goal all summer, perhaps as an opportunity for students, again, to begin thinking of how can I be an advocate for my own learning? How can I have that agency? And how can I really, really turnkey what I know about my learning skills, my learning style for next year? Students can look at their assessments also, looking at their diagnostics and compare. I know some of you all have taken just one, everyone has taken at least one diagnostic, but if you are one of the teachers who your students have taken more than one diagnostic, then which was optional, but that's an opportunity for them to compare the 2 different diagnostics. Or if they took all 3, it's an opportunity to compare their progress. It's also an opportunity for them to look at specific skills. Again, that intentionality. I don't know about you, but when my kids come home or a student says, you ask them, how did you do in your test? Oh, I did good. How's math going? Fine. This is a chance for them to be specific and say, well, ratio and proportions, I'm still working on that. I struggled with scatter plots a little bit. But when it came to multiplying and dividing, I did really, really great with this. So again, there's really opportunities for them to be specific and for us to lean in and have those discussions with them versus them just saying, I think I did okay, or math is great, or I got an 80 on that test. Well, now let's dive deeper into that. So wanted to show you all that. Any questions on how to navigate here before I show you Teacher Hub, where all the juicy things for us teachers live? Right, so going to take us to our Teacher Hub. And remember, Teacher Hub is where we house a lot of the resources, instructional resources. Someone had mentioned games earlier, or our printable resources for you all. It's in our slide, but I'll make sure I'll put the link here in the chat just to remind you all how you can access it as well. our teacher hub here. Again, you see here on our left, we have so many different categories: academic resources, opportunities to keep learning, resources for the beginning of the year, but we're past that, so we'll save that. We have culture building resources, these printable resources, and resources to stay connected. If you have not done so, your homework for yourself is to please peruse these different resources. I don't know, we don't have to, recreate the wheel. A lot of great instructional things live right inside of this hub for you all to just download and print and share with your students. So again, I know we're always crunched for time, so I would definitely take advantage of these things. So if we're thinking about engaging our students around reflecting on their individual goals and reflecting on their progress map, I would, as a teacher, look into this. Remember, I mentioned that tracker. So look, if there's a teacher, the tracker for student progress, a way for you to keep yourself accountable and throughout the school year. And for our students, if we keep scrolling here, lots of great things, but they have my skills progress tracker. That's the tracker you saw on the PowerPoint slide I just shared with you. This is where students can now be accountable for their own progress. This is where they can complete their skills. They can have an opportunity to really reflect. So they're doing that reflection, and now here's the writing part to that. So you can download this, you can print this. There's also, right beneath here, I want to just highlight super quickly, there's also the Teach to One roadmaps tracker, where students can really begin to think about that I passed, these 2 skills this particular week, the number of skills that I passed, what's the skill title. They can take notes on this and also reflect on how they felt about each particular skill. I felt confident here. I struggled here. I was, not my best in this particular skill because the multiplication threw me off, or it was the word problems that I really struggled with. So again, we're really helping our students to think about their own thinking here, and these particular trackers will definitely enable and support that conversation and that work of getting them to think about their own thinking. So I definitely encourage you to take advantage of that. Throughout today's presentation, I'm going to continue to reference resources that live in Teacher Hub, and I'm going to come back to Teacher Hub and Teach to One roadmaps just to highlight where those resources live for you all. Any questions as I move on to the next way we can engage students? Right. Wow. Please remember, you can use the chat, keep all the things going if you have any questions. Another way to engage students, this is one of my favorites one. Someone had mentioned those enrichment activities. Yes. So again, I asked you all to reimagine roadmaps. Perhaps, when school year started, you had students working on an X amount of skills per week, but now we're at the end of the school year. We can still do that, but let's do it with some fun. Let's choose joy and have fun with roadmaps and end the school year on a high note. So with that, the Teacher Hub that I just left, and I'll show you again, within there's math activities. We received a lot of feedback from our students, and we learned that they really love these interactive games. So there's, in addition to math activities, there's math games in there, such as math dice game. That's super exciting, and students really get into that. And it's a way to make it hands-on and, again, interactive for students. So it's not just looking at a skill and just completing word problems, but we're also getting them to work on that constructive thinking. We're getting them to be problem solvers and critical thinkers as they're playing this math dice game. In addition to that, we have the math relay race, and there's more. These are just the 3 that I'm choosing to highlight, but I encourage you, again, your homework is to what? Peruse through Teacher Hub to make sure you're accessing these things. So there's a math relay race game, which we learned is super exciting for our students. And again, everything's there for you all to just print, similar to math squares. So we're still learning, but now we're making it competitive, and we're having fun with these things, and we're getting students to interact with each other and to interact with math in a fun way, in a way that's, again, really engaging for them, especially since standardized assessments have been now in the rearview mirror for a lot of us. To access that, again, you would go to the Teacher Hubs. We have those categories there, and I'll show you just really quickly. Just as a reminder, we have the categories on the side there. I left us off here where we were looking at the teacher and student resources, but back to the category. You would click on academic resources, and here, whoever that brave soul was who shared that really awesome question about what are some like really exciting games or things we can do, I encourage you to visit Teacher Hubs, go under categories, academic resources, and look, voila! Under academic resources, there's a Pi Day contest and worksheets. Although some of these things, Hispanic Heritage Month, or we have Black History Month activities. Although that was in February, you can still, relive these things and you can still use these things. If any of you all are using illustrative math, there's resources for you here. Hispanic Heritage Month, again, also culture building resources, fun fall activities. And enrichment math activities and games is where you would go to access the math dice I just showed you all game. Here we go. They are categorized, different grades. However, your students. I'm in 7th grade, but I really like the math dice game. It's a 6th grade. However, looking at the different skill levels and different needs, it would totally be okay under your discretion for them to come to for a 7th grader to engage in the math dice game, I believe. So definitely look at this and the math squares, the math crossword puzzles. Again, a lot of cool activities. Oh, I really like the locker room problem. For a way to challenge students and get them again to think about logic. And also you get it to play and be a part of this as well. And then they're engaging with each other. So it's not just sitting at the computer, put your headphones on and now just work on your roadmap activity. No, we're going to have some fun with this. And that's what we really want for you and for the students to see. And there's ways for us to be really creative with this. Another way, in addition to that, to engage our students. Yes, there we go. So choose your own have fun. So again, I'm asking you to reimagine students, but you can engage them through these really cool, fun activities that we have here in Teach to One roadmaps within the Teacher Hub. You can have the roadmap skill competitions. Again, I mentioned those 2 Skill Tuesdays. Students can you can have students complete and pass 2 skills and roadmaps each week, and they'll enter into a drawing. That was something we did previously. I think we did that. The deadline for that has not been extended, so I wouldn't perhaps recommend this one, but we have done that one most recently. And I do believe that, it was really exciting for some people to get involved with that. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of having group challenges, turn and talks, and those interactive digital games. And then also look here up top here, we have, again, that culture building activities as well. So we have women mathematicians that we encourage students to research. So check out that interdisciplinary connection there. There's some research in there. They're looking at historical figures as well. There's literacy in there as well. Marjorie Lee Brown, we had highlighted her as well when we were highlighting influential Black mathematicians during Black History Month. So please dive into these things and find ways to make it really fit for your students and based on what's going on within your school culture as well. Celebrations and positive reinforcement. We know that our students, even adults like us, really benefit from positive reinforcement and celebration. So recognize and praise the students, for example, acknowledge their individual progress, and that could be done in something as simple as stickers or a prize box. And within that prize box, it might be, I don't know, a cool pencil, a cool Teach to One pen, making that up. I'm not sure, but perhaps there might be a calculator in there, headphones in there. Maybe it might be a homework pass inside that prize box. Display boards, if you have one outside of your classroom, maybe displaying, printing out students' progress maps and displaying, hey, here's where these students are, acknowledging them in that particular way. If there's school announcements, maybe make an announcement or class announcements every day. We're going to highlight these 3 students because they really, really pushed themselves last week while they were struggling on this particular scale in their roadmap. So people love to hear their name. They love the class and the attention and stuff. So I encourage that. But you could also promote learning and confidence and pride by leaving students a note on their desk, maybe, sending a positive note home to their parents, maybe talking positively about the student while they're in earshot to another teacher and saying, yes, so Michael has been working really, really hard on that math and ratios, and I've been noticing, so him hearing that can definitely help build that pride and that confidence in a student, sharing with the community. That's what I had meant. Then there's rewards and incentives as well. So we encourage a culture of learning by giving students perhaps extra time. Maybe it's the roadmap certificate, which lives where? On Teacher Hubs. Yes. So the roadmap certificates, printing that off, something tangible for them to take home and put on their fridge, put on their desk. Maybe you can print out all the certificates and put them on your display board. Maybe there might be a Roadmaps award ceremony, and everyone who's participated this year will get a certificate. So there's different ways for us to really try to engage our students. These are just some things we thought of, but I am excited to hear of different ways in which you're currently encouraging students and currently giving them to feel that positive reinforcement and ways in which you're celebrating them. Again, these were just some, but there's definitely more ways to do that. As we continue thinking about celebrating students and thinking about being intentional as we wrap up the school year, we understand that roadmaps has the power to be implemented in a variety of settings and a variety of classroom spaces. So the next couple of slides here are really supporting us based on our different implementations and giving you all best practices. However, just because you implement roadmaps as an intervention or advisory, and I'm giving you suggestions specific to that implementation, it does not mean that you can't carry that best practice over into tutoring with roadmaps or homework with roadmaps or using roadmaps as a supplemental resource. A lot of these best practices can cross-reference. You can use them multiple times. So just keep them in the back of your mind as I cover some of these here. One of the strategy that we really experience success with roadmaps is student choice and options. Students have the options to select a recommended skill. They have the options to select how they will learn that skill. And then they have the option to determine or refine the goals that they set for themselves. So that agency piece is really important. And we've realized that it's one way to engage students when you provide them with the options. So our students you can say, I want you guys to choose how you want to learn today. Math article, I'm going to do a demonstration video or a collaborative activity. Or you can say, you can write on your board, collaborative activity, math video, and let's say taking notes. These are the three things you want students to do, and you can give them the option, choose one of these three activities, one of these three. So now there's that agency, you've selected the three activities you want them to do, and now they can make the final choice and say, of those three, here's the one I'm going to work on right now. So that's one way to build that engagement with students, taking advantage of how they want to develop their own skill and their own competency, the goals and feedback, the questioning techniques. I'm going to go over into our roadmaps really quickly, because if you remember in that resource wheel, which I will show you, in our resource wheel, there's opportunities for continued learning, opportunities for details, all the vocab review. And within there, there's an opportunity for us to have question students. That questioning part will get them to will challenge students to think about their thinking, to think outside the box. So using those question stems to challenge misconceptions can engage those students who are bored with the questions that are currently being asked, or no one's asking questions perhaps. So that's another way to really get them to think and discuss and collaborate together. So let me show you what I mean. Switching screens here. So as I switch screens, use this as an opportunity to please share any questions in the chat or a thought, an aha moment. Okay. Switching over to our roadmaps. Okay. No questions, I'm noticing. All right. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, remember I was signed into our student account. So I'm just signing out. So I want to make sure you all can see this from the teacher's lens. Okay. I'm going to share this again with you all. I appreciate everyone's patience. I'm sharing again. Okay. I am back on our roadmap screen here. Now, this was where I'm still signed in as a student, but I wanted to show you just one thing here. Let's click on this skill here. There's room for growth for this particular student. There's an option here, as we all have seen before, to keep learning. And this keep learning option takes me to this wheel of opportunities is what I call it, right? The wheel of opportunity. So they have the opportunity to practice, the opportunity to explore vocabulary, the opportunity to engage in some instructional resources, such as I'm going to watch this video, I'm going to watch the second part of this video, or I'm going to engage in this peer activity. So again, remember that agency, that option part. There's an opportunity for them to access additional resources. I'm going to take notes, perhaps. So again, that agency, building that engagement, it really does mean, hey, you guys got options. You can ask questions of me, work together. There's an opportunity for you to even reflect here and think about, what kind of data that was displayed here. Again, we want to really build that agency within our students. And I keep saying that because that is really, really one of the key ways in which we're recognizing success with building that engagement towards the end of the school year. But I'm excited to hear and looking forward to any best practices that work well for you all. Looking forward to hearing that. Now, if you are someone who's joined today's webinar and you're accessing and using Teach to One roadmaps as a supplemental resource, so one way we recommend really engaging students is using those collaborative and small group activities. So previously we meant giving student agency and option. Now the second part where we can engage students for the end of the school year is that collaborative small group activities. Well, how do we do that? So we want to definitely make sure we balance accelerating student learning with giving them options. We want to increase that engagement. We want to keep things fun. So a lot of us here use those rotation stations. Rotation stations is a just intentional grouping. Students work in skill-specific groups on collaborative, peer, or small group activities. Then they're working on differentiated materials if necessary. So that's one way. They're not working on a silo, but now I'm working collaboratively. That's one way to engage them. We're also thinking that you can use roadmaps daily as warm-up activities to get them thinking about their thinking. Let's discuss this skill, turn and talk about this particular skill. Where might you apply this skill in the real world? So again, that's one way to get them talking and to get them engaged with the work there. If you notice here on the right side, apply roadmap resources. This is for you all as educators and tutors and all the folks here where you might be able to access some of these things. So if you joined in using illustrative math, here's one way in which you can apply roadmap resources. We have facilitation slides here. This download is where you will be able to download the student goals, that worksheet. Although it's on Teacher Hubs, we try to make it look easier for you to access it here, or you can go to Teacher Hub and access it. It's the student version, the teacher slide to help you facilitate that conversation. So we want you to make sure you definitely take advantage of this. And then the collaborative skill materials under each skill. That was when we just were on the Teacher Hub, the student hub over on the Teach to One roadmaps when we're looking at that wheel there. So that wheel gives us some of that collaborative materials and resources, and we were able to access that wheel by clicking on the skill card. So that's what that one's referring to. Let me know if I'm going too fast or any thoughts here. So if you're using, you're ending the year with roadmaps as tutoring, if you're using this tool as an after school, we encourage you to think about building meaningful connections with students using this tool. So by that, we mean students connect their roadmap skill or that particular strand to the real world. How are they connecting that? Well, they're connecting it through independent reflection. They're connecting it through collaborative discussion and guidance from you all as a tutor. Remember, as a tutor, you are the guide on the side, which is challenging if you're used to being the sage on the stage. So your job is to really allow students to own that learning and that thinking and allow for them to be the sage and you're on the guide. And as the guide, you're using those your questioning techniques, which live within inside here look at that Teacher Hub. I keep calling it Teacher Hub because I'm so excited and pumped about Teacher Hub, but it lives within inside our Teach One roadmaps, the teacher side here, that wheel of opportunity. So students, the teachers, you can click on these opportunity wheel, and let's say now you're going to be able to access questions that you can ask our students. You're going to be able to access different vocabularies you might want to ask our students. Again, we want to find it as a tutor. How can I guide them by using these resources? As a tutor, maybe you want to transfer the learning environment if it's applicable, if you can. Take roadmaps outside. No, seriously, if you can, if it's a small group and your school's okay, we're gonna have roadmaps in the cafeteria today. We're gonna have it in another classroom today. We're gonna just, if it's after school, we're gonna just sit in the hall and have roadmaps today. That change of environment, maybe it's playing music in the background, but something to get them super excited and engaged, might be something you might want to consider. Peer modeling, maybe you have a student model their own metacognition or specific skills. So if I've mastered this particular skill, but someone else hasn't, I'm going to not only be a peer, but I'm going to teach you how I learned. I'm going to stand in front of this tutoring group and I'm going to model this on the whiteboard, or I'm going to model it again one-on-one with one of my peers. Something else you can do as a tutor, or if you're using this after school, is teach time management skills with the students. So you may look at their reports as well and say, I'm noticing you spent a lot of time or not enough time in this report, or you're 34% done in completing your progress here. What's the issue? Have you not been struggling with completing those lessons? Have you been struggling with the time frames of that? So that's one way you can support students in organizing how they can complete 2 skills per week or 2 assessments per week. Again, you can definitely guide them in those conversations. It's also an opportunity for you to take advantage of the interactive skill demonstrations and those real world dialogues where you're asking students to think about their thinking and where might you actually apply and use this information. If you're implementing roadmaps as part of your homework, again, build agency and build motivation by providing students with options. And those options can be driven by their own interest. So again, you can come up with 5 different interests or 5 different options and allow students to select 3 of those. Have fun, be creative, and allow students to select their own rewards and recognition. So you may have, here are all the options I have of rewards. Those options can include a certificate, prize box, homework pass, stickers. What of these, here are the options here. If you complete these 2 skills and these 2 assessments, pick one option from, this prize box here, one option from this reward. They get to choose that. So again, finding ways to make it fun and encourage them. You can encourage them also by creating a homework study group with roadmaps. You can also encourage them by taking advantage of the math games, different math videos as well. So definitely allowing them to choose those options perhaps will help them with the buy-in with the homework a little bit more. Now, as we're thinking about, well, how do I end this? If I just like, all right, roadmaps is done. Guys, go home. See you next summer. No, that's not it. So we have a little checklist here of some things just to get you thinking about how you want to put a bow on this and to get our students thinking of how they want to get a bow on this. Remember, students will have access to roadmaps up until July 31st, and with the start up again on August 1st. But we want to make sure that you still encourage them to try to practice using some of these things as long as they can. So until we get to that point where it's now mid-July, we're now still here wrapping up the year. So as a teacher, we encourage you to schedule one-on-one check-in with students. That check-in can be like your end-of-year closeout conversation. Remember, they did the heavy work already of reflecting on their learning, reflecting on their growth, reflecting on their progress. So now we can have a conversation one-on-one about that. They can come to your seat and they have their tracker with them where they've tracked their progress and they've tracked their skills, and that can be a conversation. Another closeout thing as a teacher is celebrate, rejoice with the students and recognize them. Think about how you want to do that. Are you going to say, I'm going to give every student, which I think you should be really cool, but every student's going to get a certificate here, or every student's going to get a job, a phone call home? I'm not sure, but you think about what's in your capacity and what you think your students really, really would buy in and benefit the most. Encourage you to also to think about what are your goals for your students for next year. Some of you may be looping with students. Let's say if you're a 7th grade teacher, you're also going to teach 8th grade next year. So maybe you're looping with them. You might have specific goals, but if you're not looping with students next year and you have a fresh new student group of students next year, think about your experience this year and what might you need to support your instruction from us in new classrooms. How can we support the implementation? Think about that. And think about what you think your students might need for next year as well. We encourage you to share that feedback with us so we can make sure we set you up for success for next year moving forward. Or even if you want to have those conversations about supporting students throughout the summer, we can have those conversations as well. So we encourage you teachers to look at the orange slide here just to think about sharing your experience and also making sure you're celebrating students and giving them the chance to have a one-on-one conversation with you about their experience and their learning. For the students, we encourage them to review those data reports, and we've listed them out here, reviewing their individual reports and where they are. We encourage them to reflect on their learning experience. What learning experience, what was it good, was it bad? How can it be improved? What did they learn about themselves? I've learned that I really like collaborative activities, or I don't like collaborative activities, perhaps. We also want to make sure that students now have the opportunity to share their experience, not just with you, but perhaps with a peer. Maybe it's with the community. It could be with the parent. A coach. It could be them writing 3 sentences or in an email and saying, here's how I did on this, or maybe it's a letter to themselves. Also giving them the opportunities to set some goals for next year, or maybe goals throughout the summer and say, I'm really going to focus on this multiplication throughout the summer, or math vocabulary or division ratios. That's where I struggle with that. So they can have the opportunity to give themselves some goals as well. And then you would lean in as the teacher and say, I agree with those goals, but I'm going to add this goal in too because I've reviewed your data reports and stuff as well. Just some things to think about as you're, again, navigating this tricky time of the year and thinking of ways to end it and positively with our students. So as we get ready to navigate ending this webinar here, I want to end it all with just reminding you all of where and how you can access continued support. So although this webinar is ending, the conversation and the opportunity to receive support is not ending and is ongoing. And I want you all to understand that and believe that. So please take advantage of these things. We have our help center where you can submit questions and review any of our help articles. We have our teacher hub, which is, I know I probably said teacher hub how many times, right? Drink water every time Latoya says teacher hub. Okay, you're full now, but yes, access teacher hub until you can access those printable resources, the webinar recordings like this particular one, student resources, culture building resources, contests. You can access those things all in Teacher Hub. Please peruse that because that was your homework. Remember, we also have our monthly newsletter, which comes out every third Wednesday of the month. We have some really cool topics coming up. Topics such as engaging students throughout the end of the school year is one of our upcoming topics. And then how do I support students throughout the summer will be our next topic for the particular for articles. So please look at those. We'll definitely share that with you guys. And then we still have our office hours where you can share questions and concerns or supports as they're needed. And definitely reaching out to me as well. I want you all to definitely take advantage of emailing me, of having one-on-one 30 minutes with me, of joining my Calendly and saying, hey, I definitely need some time to dive deeper into this, or even if it's just having a conversation about it. It doesn't have to be a strict agenda. I just really want to talk about what this could look like or flush this out more, or can you show me how to navigate accessing this in Teacher Hub, since I know you're super into that, Latoya. So those are some of the ways in which we can support you. But again, the conversation does not end here, just the webinar does. So please take advantage of those things the same way where you want your students to take advantage of all the really great resources that you've made available for them and all of the really hard effort and work that you've done for them. We encourage you guys to do some of that as well. Do not reinvent the wheel. A lot of juicy things live here within our Teacher Hub. So please reach out. Any other questions or thoughts here as we get ready to round up our time together? I think we look good in our chat. If there are no questions or thoughts now, I look forward to receiving an email for that one-on-one time with you all so we can begin plotting and planning for next year, and just, again, support and how do I end this year with students and how do I get them excited for next year? So we can do that together. That being said, enjoy the rest of your day, and enjoy the rest of your school year. Sending you all positive energy for a great end of the school year with Teach to One Roadmaps. Thank you.